Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman, and I want to welcome you to another edition of the Seaman's Cinema Sit Down. So we had a trailer drop during the Emmys on Sunday night. I watched that trailer. I reacted to that trailer. You can see that reaction right here. However, going into Sunday, I was on like 4 hours of sleep. Got to work at 5:30 a.m. Left and got home at 12:30 a.m. You do the math on how many hours that is. And I even said in the reaction that I was not all there that night. And I might be a little slow. And I was also kind of fixated on one element, the sitcom reference element that this trailer was going to hold, based on things we had seen in the Super Bowl spot. And while I think I picked up on some of the sitcom stuff pretty decently, there were other things that I saw and did not call attention to that when editing the video, because I have to watch the trailer over and over again, I was like, oh, I think there's something else going on here. I should probably go to sleep and then watch this trailer a bunch after getting a full night's rest. And I did that. And after doing that, I was like, yep, there's only one thing we can do. So why don't you pull up a chair, man, take a seat. We are getting ready to break down the official trailer for WandaVision. That's right, man. Coming into this trailer, I thought I had a decent grasp at what was going on. What we knew was that it clearly was going to be telling the story through like this kind of sitcom through the years type style. A bunch of the images we saw in the Super Bowl spot were definitely referencing things like, classic black and white sitcoms like Leave It to Beaver or Dick Van Dyke Show or Bewitched. All things I watched growing up on Nick at Night. And which plays into some of what's going on at the beginning of the trailer. I absolutely love it, and I can't wait to break that stuff down. But my initial thought process was, we know that this story is going to roll us into a potential House of M type storyline, because Wanda mentally has got to be right on the verge. And in the comics, the House of M storyline, Wanda has a mental breakdown and becomes the villain of the story as she tries to, mess with reality. And you have a character here that was primed for that. I mean, you're talking about someone who, has a significant love in Vision that she has to kill to save the world. So she's got to process that on her own. Then Thanos rewinds time, kills, makes her watch him kill Vision in an even more brutal way than what Wanda had to do. So now she's got to live with that and process that. And then he snaps away everybody, including Wanda. So when she comes back, she's now got to be dealing with her killing Vision, Thanos killing Vision, Thanos killing half the world, including her coming back, and then dealing with all of those things. So it was a character that was primed for a mental break. And knowing that Vision would be in the show and that Vision's dead, I thought that the show might be exploring Wanda's psyche Multiverse of Madness, the next Doctor Strange movie, which the show was supposed to originally lead directly into, and kind of take us into that House of M, but start with giving us the diving into the psyche of Wanda and the mental breakdown, and telling that story through this kind of idea of going through what I thought would be episode by episode a different era of sitcoms. And I was kind of sticking with that theory when I watched the trailer the first time, but as I've watched it multiple times, I now don't think that's true at all. I think everything we're seeing is real to a degree. Like, it's not happening in Wanda's head. Like, it is actually happening in the world, and it might have to do with Wanda messing with reality. Or maybe it's a simulation of sorts. We'll dive into both of those theories after we watch the trailer. But I want to dive in, man. I got my notebook. I got some space right here that I can put up some images. So as I reference different sitcom things that some of you might not be familiar with, you can see the images right here as to what the show's kind of going for. So let's bring up our trailer. There we are. And, let's just dive right into this. And right out the gate, I don't even have to hit play. We got stuff to talk about. What you're seeing here is what looks like an old, television from way back when TVs first were being made. Old school TVs were thick, man. Like, they were these big ass boxes, and you'd have a screen that was kind of built into kind of like a TV unit. And basically it was all these tubes, all these big tubes in the back that would help project the picture. And then you literally had dials. You had to get up. Anytime you wanted to change channel, you had to physically click the dials. And eventually, these big-ass remotes came that would allow you to flip through the channels. And, you didn't have straight cable. You had to get it through antenna wires. So this image of Marvel Studios here is an image of what a TV looked like. That glass was kind of rounded, and you would get these lines. Now, what's cool is what's going to happen. Now, as I said, I watched all these shows on Nick at Night, and while I'm familiar with these TVs, because my grandparents had TVs like these, I didn't watch these shows when they aired. So my grandparents would have been watching it with these kind of fuzzy lines. I would be watching it in a 4:3 cleaner version of that image, and that's exactly what we get at the start of the trailer. It's just genius. Watch this. Oh, we see it's exactly what an old TV would look like. We've got Wanda and Vision coming post-wedding. And boom, now it clears out, right? It kind of cleans up and it goes to that 4:3 formatting. That's how I would have watched these shows back in the day. So I don't know if that's necessarily what the MCU folks were doing when they were cutting the trailer, but that's what it feels like to me. Like, especially because we're going through all these different eras of sitcoms, playing to the fact that a lot of people watching these movies probably watched these sitcoms, not when they aired, but they watched them on Nick at Night or on TV at some other point. So I kind of like that they do that, and then we'll see that they actually kind of will adjust the aspect ratio to what we're familiar with as far as widescreen goes, and also how television and the sitcoms as they went through eventually would colorize. So we'll certainly get there.
Wanda and Vision, aren't we a 5-pack?
Now here, see this image of Wanda and Vision. Aren't we a fine pair? Yes, indeed, Vision, you are. And that's kind of calling to the fact that, like, back in the day, sitcoms would kind of have families, much like Leave It to Beaver, that, kind of felt like the perfect family. That was kind of the image that you would get in the portrayed version of the shows. And obviously you dive into the fact that they're not always perfect, but always can get to a level of perfection, I guess you could say. And every time I've seen this image of the kitchen, I just immediately think Leave It to Beaver. You got the dad who's in a suit, got the newspaper, getting ready to grab coffee or a bite to eat as he heads out to work. You got the mom or the wife at home, and this is the way things were back in the day. In the kitchen, usually doing the cooking, the cleaning, all the household chores, and in the Leave It to Beaver stuff, a lot of stuff would go on in the kitchen. You'd have that back door right out to the backyard there. So every time I've seen this image, that's just what I've thought of. But these images of these early black and white type sitcoms can reference not just Leave It to Beaver, but things like Dick Van Dyke and even Bewitched, which we'll get to momentarily. So let us continue along here.
This is our home.
Now here, this shot, this is where I say, like Bewitched. I'm starting to get the vibe style-wise. Things, that kind of similar to things we saw Samantha wear. With the necklace, kind of like the overs. Just, it's hitting that era of TV, right? Bewitched, Dick Van Dyke. And Bewitched is a show that makes a ton of sense to be referencing when you're talking about a television show that you're making that features a character named Scarlet Witch. And you'll see that they kind of continue to play with some Bewitched stuff as we go through here. Now right here, Bewitched, Samantha would wiggle her nose, but she would do magic throughout the house to make things easier for her when she was cleaning. If Darren, wasn't tidied up or looking right, he was looking to shelter, she could, adjust his clothes or things just by a wrinkle of her nose. Here, it looks like Wanda's doing everything with her fingers, but it's a clear reference and call to, Bewitched, which featured a show with someone who was a witch who had to fit in with society, and that's what she's saying here. If we're gonna live here, we gotta make sure that we fit in. And I love this, that you see like the magic, and that kind of has a Bewitched vibe graphically, or visual effects wise, to as they change, Vision into, a more human version looking that looks exactly like Paul Bettany. So that's the deal. Now here, Catherine Hahn, couldn't think of her name on Sunday night. This, again, is something that I feel like is a reference to Bewitched, or certainly sitcom television and show, where you have a wacky neighbor. We've seen it through all the eras. I mean, for me growing up, Fresh Prince, Jazzy Jeff, Family Matters, Urkel. But you go back to things like Bewitched, and you had, Bewitched, you had Samantha's mother, and Dora, who was really quite loony and out there. And that certainly seems to be some of the elements of what Catherine Hahn's doing. But the other thing, too, is the nosy next-door neighbor, which was Gladys Kravitz. I think if you combine those two characters, that's sort of what we're getting with Catherine Hahn. You're going to have someone who has inside knowledge of, the Scarlet Witch, because she, as we see her reference later, like, she knows that Vision's dead. So she clearly has inside knowledge, much like Endora would have inside knowledge of Samantha. But also seems to be playing the kind of kooky, nosy neighbor, much like Gladys Kravitz. So I could be off base, but that kind of feels like what they're going for. And like I said, Bewitched, I think, is the one that we're getting the most vibes from in the show. But I love that Catherine Hahn is going to be, the nosy, kooky kind of neighbor third character. And also, the only person on IMDb, really, that doesn't have a name listed to her. So I'll be interested to see exactly who Catherine Hahn is as the show comes out. Now this right here. The minute I saw this wine bottle floating there and kind of like jiggling and stuff, that was the first thing that screamed Bewitched to me, because that is totally something that Bewitched would do. Like I said, you would see Samantha cleaning or getting dinner ready, and it comes in floating and stuff. So like that was the first thing that really, really screamed Bewitched to me.
How long have you been married, and why?
Now, I also love this, that we have the wonderfully talented Deborah Jo Rupp, who of course was Kitty from that 70s show. If you're gonna have an older married couple in the show, really wise to have one of them be a classic sitcom mom that people will go, even though we're in black and white and kind of doing old school sitcom references, hey, she was in sitcoms. And I also just love Deborah Jo Rupp. Like, she's so funny. So I love that she's going to be in the show, and obviously she's paired here with Fred Malamed, who's going to give us a real Jordan Peele kind of Get Out moment in just a second.
Don't you have children yet?
Now I love this. Look at how Scarlet Witch's face falls off there. Like, she's like, okay, let me tell you our story. I can't remember anything. This plays into that mental breakdown that Scarlet Witch is having, and the reason that she wouldn't remember marrying, Vision, or where they came from, what their past was before they got there, and why they don't have kids yet, and things of this nature. Because none of that happened, you know what I mean? So I love seeing, Elizabeth Olsen's face fall off here. And then we get the exact same thing from Vision. He can't put anything together because there is no history there. Everything's not, it ended. It didn't have any of that stuff. So these things are either possibly being manipulated by Scarlet Witch, or possibly a simulation. Well, like I said, we'll dive more into the theories on the back half. But I love the way both of their faces fall off here, and the way Malamed is like, why? Where? When did you get married? Why don't you have kids? Tell me. And now we get to see that kind of widescreen come back. We rewind. And I love this. You see the Marvel Studios there, and then boom, you get Marvel Studios there. So it's like two versions of print, and the first one that you kind of see quickly is in the style of WandaVision itself. So I love that. Now here, I love this too. You're going to see, one of the reasons I keep referencing Bewitched is because besides just the witch connection, things we're seeing also went on in the show. Bewitched was one of the few shows from back in the day that started out in black and white and then became color. And here, Vision is wearing a hardcore Darren sweater, man. Like, it screams that show in that time period. And I love that you would reference Bewitched. And like I said, that was a show that went from black and white to color. Physically seeing it happen here is kind of cool. But then again, also kind of hinting to the fact that it's reality. Like, it's not like in her head where, oh, it's colored and that, like, it just happens. Like, you hear them go, is this real? And I love the way that the pink is just coming up in his hands and the black and white's starting to fade. It's beautiful. And now we're going to get all the different kind of sitcoms that we could be hitting. Right here, the shot of them dancing kind of screams to me, specifically with the backyard in the back, the Brady Bunch. But also, again, from that era, things like the Partridge Family. So like you see, they're just kind of hitting the different eras of sitcoms as we continue. Right here, this, to me, just screams 90s. The flannel shirt tucked into jeans. If there's anything that's more Danny Tanner It is something like a flannel tucked into jeans. And the vibe here just feels like 90s sitcom television. And then right after this, we got Kathryn Hahn sitting there in the classic kind of like 80s aerobic workout. And in the Super Bowl spot, we saw a bit that kind of looked 80s-ish. And for me, for whatever reason, every time I've seen shots that kind of reference the 80s sitcoms, I'm seeing and kind of feeling something like Married with Children. But literally anything coming out of the 80s is definitely where this is calling to. Love this also. You have Scarlet Witch rocking her classic Scarlet Witch look from the comics for what apparently is going to be Halloween is going on during the show. We'll see that coming up here as well. Now here, we've broken away from the sitcom stuff, seeing Scarlet Witch in her comic, get up. Now we're seeing Vision in his normal getup and doing Vision type things. And we also, like I said, Halloween, you see the kids behind him are trick-or-treaters, out in the street. So we see him floating up. Real hardcore Superman shot. I feel like I've seen Superman or Clark Kent do this kind of like float up into the sky and look over at like everything down below him. Regardless, it's a beautiful shot. I just love it. Now he comes down here, and boom, now we got Kathryn Hahn dressed up like a witch. This, again, I think is a call to Bewitched, where we see Samantha wearing a witch costume, very much like the one that Kathryn Hahn is wearing. So, again, I think of all the sitcoms, that's the one that they're kind of hitting the most here, but I love this whole moment as well. See Vision use his mind powers, the Mind Stone powers.
Oh. Why would you think that?
Because you.
Vision's face. That was my face, man. When I was watching the trailer the first time, it was the first time I thought maybe this isn't in her head. Maybe this is reality. Because Vision uses his powers. And Vision's off doing his own thing. Like, Scarlet Witch ain't around. If it was all in Scarlet Witch's head, she would be in every scene, every shot of the entire show. So, this is some kind of a reality. Whether this is Scarlet Witch maybe in going crazy, fate found a way with her powers to bring Vision back. Maybe she just created a version of Vision for herself, or if this is a simulation, maybe it's something altogether different that could be Vision-esque. And like I said, we'll talk about those specific theories at the end of this. But I love Paul Bettany's face here, because my face on this, I was like, wait, what? Huh? And I love the fact that, this is our kind of into the fact that Kathryn Hahn knows things. She's got inside information to the fact that, like, Vision is dead. So maybe she is a real person and not a created, reality that Wanda might be creating. Or, it could be, right? Wanda knows that Vision's dead, so Kathryn Hahn could be that version of her psyche. Irregardless, her character clearly will know things. I love that laugh. I love here, you see the kind of doomed, like the double visionary new age, and the type, and it's going to play into something kind of cool in a minute. Here, I love this. You see Vision in a classic look of Vision from the comics for his Halloween costume, so that's great. You see more trick-or-treaters. Again, Halloween is what's going on for sure, time-wise, in this show. Here. Now, this was kind of another thing where, like, when I went back and I was rewatching, it was like, oh, yeah, Wanda clearly is in control of, like, altering reality. And I like that when she alters reality, it kind of looks like a television screen. But here you see her updating the entire room. Now, maybe this is the first time that she realizes that she could do these types of things. Maybe it's right after everything becomes color, and maybe she's starting to understand that she does have control here. It's something that she's been creating and messing with from day one, and she kind of puts on a facade when she's around, the other things that she's created. But we do see her physically create things there, and that leads us into this, where you see those two versions of type. This one, of course, says of WandaVision, and then WandaVision turns to television, which again is just another clue and nod to the fact that they're using television to tell this WandaVision show. I love it, man. They're so smart over at the MCU. Now, this is the other thing that I didn't really call out or point out, and you'll see if you look real close. This person who's flying through the air, there's red stuff around her, so clearly Wanda is throwing her. And where she currently is daytime. Where she ends up is nighttime. And you can see that Wanda, like, power set that kind of looks like a TV screen popping there. This person is being thrown out of the reality. Now, whether, like I said, this is Wanda's reality or a simulation reality, it is a fake version of reality that is closed off to the regular world. Like, it looks like it's not there. And clearly, you can tell, like, daytime, nighttime. And this character, we'll see her face in a minute. I didn't put it together because I forgot, but thank you, IMDb, for reminding me who that is. Now, here, we see some sort of either military or government agency. S.H.I.E.L.D. is no longer around. There is an agency that is from the comics that could be formed, possibly, to kind of do things that S.H.I.E.L.D. was doing, maybe. And that agency could be S.W.O.R.D. And I say that because on IMDb, Shane Berengue, is listed as a tactical S.W.O.R.D. agent. Now, S.W.O.R.D. is, of course, the Sentient World Observation and Response Department. They're like the counterterrorism for extraterrestrials in the Marvel comics. Now, granted, Wanda isn't necessarily an extraterrestrial, but she is, more than human. That's for sure. So I wonder if maybe we'll see, S.W.O.R.D. dealing with, like, mutants, maybe, or possibly for sure extraterrestrial things, because I think that base we saw Samuel L. Jackson on at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home could be the S.W.O.R.D's space station, and maybe he's running it, and there's someone he might need to trust to do things back down on Earth, and that could be that character that you saw thrown out of there. But regardless, this is definitely that agency. We see lots of green laser lights, which means the tactical team is coming in to stop something. You see here, we got like a helicopter, and they've set up like a full camp. What I would assume is around whatever this wall is that, we saw that character kind of fly through. And there is that character, the one and only Teyana Paris, who is playing Monica Rambeau, who, of course, was a little girl in Captain Marvel, where we had her mom, Maria Rambeau, palling around with Captain Marvel. And that would be your tie to Samuel L. Jackson. And that could be potentially maybe him running S.W.O.R.D. Up in space. Maybe that's the space station that he was on, and maybe Monica has been working with him the whole time. Maybe she, and Maria, that's where they've been. And he's trusted Monica to go in because he would know about Scarlet Witch to try to help in some way, put someone he trusts on the inside rather than just like these outside units. But that is who that is. And there's some other characters, like I said, when we're done here, because we're almost done, we'll get into my theories. But I'm excited to see how that will tie into the Captain Marvel world and if that sets up anything for the Captain Marvel sequel.
We are an unusual
And
people,
yes.
Oh, I don't think that was ever in question.
I just love that, man. And it is a really solid trailer that doesn't really give too much away, but when you piece it together, some other things could be giving a lot away. Now, as I referenced throughout the course of that trailer, I've kind of come up with two different theories. Now, the first of those theories is that this reality that we're seeing has been completely created by Wanda. Wanda, dealing with the fact that she had to kill Vision, then Thanos killed Vision, then Thanos killed her, and she came back to life, but Vision didn't come back. All of that leading to this mental breakdown forces Wanda to a spot where maybe she does something that, causes some kind of a disaster or kills a bunch of people, and she flees, maybe, and ends up in, you see a lot of grass on the outside, like where that camp was set up. So maybe she has gone out to an open area and created a suburb that you can't see, right? Like, to the naked eye, it just keeps looking like forest or open grassy field. But inside of that dome is this suburb sitcom world that Wanda has created for herself as a coping mechanism, which is why maybe she doesn't remember things. And the fact that she is, in mental duress when all this is going on, one of two things is happening here. Either she figured out that she could resurrect or bring Vision back, or she's created a version of Vision for herself in this reality. If she's brought Vision actually back to life, that makes me wonder if we will indeed see Aaron Taylor Johnson come back as Quicksilver at some point, whether it's here or in, the Multiverse of Madness, Doctor Strange 2 movie. Because Quicksilver, obviously, a key contributor to the House of M storyline. So if she's actually brought Vision back, we could potentially see Quicksilver, or if she's brought Vision or created another version of Vision, maybe she has the ability to create another version of Quicksilver. Certainly keep your eyes out for that stuff. Now, The other way that this could be going is that in that mental breakdown, Wanda's hospitalized, potentially by Sword, who would be kind of taking over and filling the void of the non-existent shield. And I say that because there's another character, Sean McClane, who is listed, or that's the actor, he's listed as Orderly. Now, an orderly is usually typically, someone that is in a hospital, a lot of times a mental hospital. And if Wanda was put into a mental or a psychiatric ward and they couldn't control her, maybe this agency, potentially Sword, created this fictional reality for her to cope so that she couldn't do any more damage. Maybe she did something really bad. And I think the show will probably slowly reveal what's happened between the show and Endgame. Either way, she's inside of this fictional reality, and maybe whatever is going on in there is starting to affect the outside world, which is why Sword is coming back. Maybe she's starting to figure things out. When you see her, like, say, is this real when the colors change? And then you see her changing all the stuff in the room. Maybe she figures out that she can manipulate this world. And that, I don't know, maybe there's some sort of danger there. But maybe that's why this group is coming in. And again, we have potentially Monica Rambeau. She's not listed as an agent, but maybe she works for Sword. Maybe she works for Samuel L. Jackson. And maybe that space station we saw him on is the Sword space station, which would be kind of cool. So either way, whether, it's a reality that she was put in or a reality that she's created, clearly everything we're seeing must be real to some degree. And, the other thing, too, that we can call out here is the song choice. The Platters song Twilight Time. Now, what's interesting, right, about Twilight Time, that's the time between sunup and sundown, when it's not completely dark and it's not completely light, right? So you get it at night, at sundown, you get it in the morning. And, a lot of things, you'd assume the witching hour is typically midnight, but, according to some scientific things, a lot of apparitions or, those type of experiences seem to happen between 2 and 4 a.m., which is when Twilight Time would be. And considering that Vision is dead, just kind of plays into those types of things. So everything they do, man, there are specific choices, and all of Twilight Time is, if you look at the lyrics, the song itself is calling out to, a pair of lovers. Heavenly shades of nights are falling in twilight time. Out of the mist your voice is calling. It's twilight time. When purple-colored curtains mark the end of day, I'll hear you, my dear, at twilight time. Speaking, the things that Wanda can't have with Vision dead, deepening shadows gather splendor as a day is done. Fingers of night will soon surrender the setting sun. I count the moments, darling, till you're here with me, together at last, at twilight time. So the song is speaking to what Wanda wants. She wants to be back with Vision. And whether this is a simulation that is trying to control her, or a reality that she has created for herself, that's the one that I feel more strongly about. It fits the song that's playing. So everything in this trailer, man, is just genius. From the references to different types of sitcoms, and I love all those references, and I'm really interested to see where this thing goes, man. There's also a bunch of other characters that we are familiar with in the show. Randall Park is coming back as Jimmy Woo. Maybe he's the agent in charge of Scarlet Witch when she goes crazy. If it's a simulation, if the simulation is the route that this show takes, maybe he's the one in charge of that. He has history with Ant-Man. And the Avengers. So, the fact that he's being brought in, that's interesting. We also are going to get Kat Dennings coming back as Darcy Lewis. How does that tie in? Is she working for Sword? Maybe, with Natalie Portman? I don't know, but it feels like the show could be setting up multiple things for Phase 4, and that gets me super, super excited. So, there you go, man! Those are all of my thoughts and breakdowns of the WandaVision trailer. There's a lot going on in there. And I think the show is going to be super enjoyable. And like I said, could be setting up some big time things for potentially the next Thor movie, next Captain Marvel movie, certainly the next Doctor Strange movie. So I can't wait. So with all that there, man, now I want to know what you guys are thinking. How crazy am I? Am I on base? Am I off base? Which theory do you think is more? Is this a government-created simulation? Or is this something that Wanda has completely done herself as she kind of loses her mind? Anything you're thinking about WandaVision, the trailer, the breakdown notes, things that I've said. All of it goes down below in the comments section. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new, you want to come hang out with the old C-Man, you know what you gotta do, man. Come join the C-Maniacs by jumping over there, hitting that subscribe button, hit that little bell if you want those alerts. And until next time, for the C-Man Cinema Sit Down, I've been the C-Man. I'm signing off. Peace! Well, I'll be. You guys are still here. You must be looking for some more content. Well, don't worry. C-Man's got you covered, man. You got videos like this guy and this guy. And if you haven't yet, and you want to come check out all the C-Man goodies, join the Cinema Sit Down squad, man. Hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit the little bell down below that, too, so you can get alerts every time I make new videos.